show you the president's remarks now, the deposition, 4 hours, and then more of your phone calls just after midnight. We'll talk to you later.
Grand jury is in session. There is a quorum. There are no unauthorized persons in the grand jury room.
That was the first of several tape changes, short breaks as the technicians fed the tape to us and the other networks today. So we're taking a brief break here. More of the president's testimony in a moment. But first, a reminder that you can watch and listen to the president's grand jury testimony on our website. You can find us on the internet at www.cspan.org. To watch it, click on to Watch and Listen Now, or you can read portions of the transcript and the entire 3,000-page referral from the Independent Counsel. Again, www.cspan.org will get you lots more information on this story. Now back to more of the president from August 17th. This portion runs about an hour and 20 minutes. The president's testimony continues in a moment. Just under 2 hours remaining now from August 17th. At midnight Eastern Time, we'll open the phones for more of your reaction. Also tonight, freshman Republican Congressman Chris Cannon, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, is meeting with his constituents in Provo, Utah tonight to talk about the president's case. You can watch that live right now if you'd like over on C-SPAN 2. It's scheduled to run for about another 45 minutes or so. And a reminder about our morning program. The Washington Journal starts up 7 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow. We're going to begin with about 2 hours and 15 minutes of open phones. More of your thoughts on this story regarding the President of the United States. We will also be talking with Jim Norman. He is polling editor at USA Today. Again, the Washington Journal starts tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific. Now it's back to tape coverage at the White House map room. Just over an hour left now, the president's grand jury testimony from August 17th here in Washington at the White House. At about midnight Eastern Time, we'll open the phone lines to get your reaction to all of this. And a reminder that you can watch and listen to the president's grand jury testimony on our website, or you can read the text. You can find us on the internet at www.cspan.org. To watch it, just click on Watch and Listen Now, or you can read portions of the transcript and the entire 3,000-page referral from the Independent Counsel. You're watching C-SPAN, a public service offered by America's cable television industry. We're going to return now to the president's final hour of testimony. And we'll continue with the president's grand jury testimony in a moment after the tape at midnight Eastern Time. We'll take your phone calls, get your reaction to today's events. We'll also see how different parts of the world are reacting to the investigation of the president, with several international newscasts from France, Germany, and Canada. And a reminder that tomorrow morning on C-SPAN's Washington Journal, USA Today's polling editor, Jim Norman, will be our guest. But before that, we'll have about 2¼ hours of open phone lines to get your thoughts on the president's testimony. The Washington Journal starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. And one other reminder, if you'd like to read parts of the president's testimony, you can do that by accessing our webpage at www.cspan.org. You can also watch the videotaped testimony in real time by clicking on Watch and Listen. Again, the C-SPAN website, www.cspan.org. Now back to the president's testimony. We have about 40 minutes left. This was the final tape change today as technicians at the Capitol fed the testimony to the television networks, including C-SPAN. Just about 15 minutes to go now in the videotape of the president's August 17th grand jury testimony. Just after midnight Eastern Time, we're going to get your reaction your calls on anything you've seen or heard today from the president. You'll see the phone numbers on the bottom of the screen there. We'll leave them there for just a second or two. We'll also see this evening how different parts of the world are reacting to the investigation of the president. We have several newscasts arranged for you from France, Germany, and from Canada. A reminder again that you can watch and listen to the president's grand jury testimony on our website, or you can read it. You can find us on the internet at www.cspan.org. To watch it, just click on to Watch and Listen Now, where you can read portions of the transcript and the entire 3,000-page referral from the Independent Counsel. You're watching C-SPAN, which was created and funded by the cable television industry across America and offered to you as a public service. Now the final portion of the president's testimony from the White House. So that's the entire 4-hour testimony President Clinton provided to the grand jury on August 17th at the Map Room at the White House. We're going to replay this one more time this evening at 2 a.m. Eastern Time if you want to stay up and watch part of it, or set your VCR, 2 a.m. Eastern Time. In the meantime, we have 2 hours of live programming here for you. We're going to take your phone calls. You can see the numbers on the bottom of the screen there. If you are a liberal, you can call 202-624-1111. Conservatives, 624-1115. And moderates can call 202-737-6734. Also, during this 2-hour period, we will hear from some members of the U.S. Senate. We'll get you some newscasts from Germany, Britain, France, and Canada, and we'll take a look around the websites of newspapers around the country to see how they're playing this story today. So all that in the next 2 hours. We hope you'll call in. We're going to move on first to Orlando, Florida, on the Liberal line. Good evening.
Good evening. I've got to tell you, I'm quite outraged by this. I can't believe that we waste all this time just to get softcore porn. You know what I mean? It's a little bit ludicrous that they would go so far as to use this partisan bias to basically get campaign ad material, which I believe is the whole issue of releasing this tape. And I've got to tell you, it's a little frustrating.
All right, appreciate your comments. Moving on now to the conservative line to Pulaski, Virginia. Hi.
Yes, this is Doug Manuel from Pulaski, and I'd like to say that this is a disgrace to our country for them to do our president this way. Who, like another woman or man, would go to court and they would ask such questions. And I also think that money spent and the money they're going to spend is very, very outrageous. And I like to say, to sum this up, it looks to me like the committee is already going to vote party line, and Clinton is going to have to either resign or stay in office and tough this out. And I also think the Republicans have hurt themselves tremendously. Thank you.
Caller, thanks for weighing in with your opinion. Let's get the thoughts of a caller on the moderate line, Marietta, Texas. Hi.
Hello. It's really my opinion that even though President Clinton is the president, he is still, a human being. And as a human being, he is subject to making mistakes just like anyone else. And I really think that we should just, put this behind us all and just drive on and let him continue to do the good job that he's been doing. So, I think that just too much is too much is being made of this, way too much. And we need to just go on with it.
All right, moving on. Got a couple calls here from California, Los Angeles first on the Liberal line. What'd you think of the tape?
Well, I feel very strongly that President Clinton is one of the reasons why I've ever thought of becoming an American citizen. And I think that he's done a remarkable job as a president. And I think that he is a remarkable man. And I feel very strongly that the judicial system in this country lacks. It seems like you are guilty until proved innocent, as opposed to the other way around. And it seems pretty deplorable that a president of the United States should be put through this kind of scenario when there are major issues throughout the world that require his attention, and why should he be wasting his time on this kind of nonsense?
Los Angeles, thank you very much. Moving up the California coast to San Jose, California, on the conservative line.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Masood, and I am a lifelong conservative, Goldwater conservative, and a Reagan Republican who feels really ashamed of belonging to the Republican Party now, because the Republicans and the media, for not having any other issues at their hand anymore, are attacking the president. And the commandment in the Republican Party used to be that thou shalt not, criticize anybody personally. But it's really disgusting to see the Republicans, whose leaders are also in the Congress, guilty of similar, things in their private lives, are making the private life of a president, two-term president, who has done a lot of things, fulfilled a lot of his promises, brought the economy around, because other things around, and they are kind of going as a lynch mob after him and blaming him for the effect it's having on the people. But it's the media and the Republicans who are keeping this private issue alive on TV day after day after day. And it's disgusting. And I think there's going to be a backlash in the November election against the Republican leadership, and there should be. And that's all what I have to say. And thanks for taking my call.
All right, caller. Thank you for calling in. Picture of the White House there. The president is spending the night in New York. He made a speech at the United Nations today. Will spend the night in New York and meet tomorrow with the Prime Minister of Japan up at the Rockefeller Family Estate in Tarrytown, New York, just north of New York City. He is expected back at the White House by about mid-afternoon tomorrow. Rockford, Illinois, you're on the moderate line. What would you like to say tonight?
I think this is really going to turn into just a stupid, silly waste of money and a witch hunt. They couldn't hang Whitewater on him. They couldn't hang sexual abuse on him. And they found a naive little girl who made some mistakes and an older man who made some mistakes. And I think we've all heard enough of it. And it's just time to let him go on and finish his term and quit embarrassing himself. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. He's done a good job for us. And basically, that's all we should be worried about. We've taken it as far as it should go. The media's made a complete circus of it. And I just think it's time to let it rust. He's admitted he made a mistake. He said that none of it was her fault. He's pretty freely. I mean, I know he was a little evasive about some issues, but I don't think it was up to him to offer any information. And I just think he handled himself very, very well, was very calm and collected. He's done as much as he needs to do without invoking executive privilege or the Fifth Amendment. And I think we just need to cut the guy some slack and let him do his job. Thank you.
All right. This tape, by the way, was released at about 9:25 this morning here in Washington. It came down what we call a pool line here in Washington. You can see pictures here of the actual delivery of the tape. As you know, the House Judiciary Committee agreed on Friday to make this tape public. So this tape was brought over to the pool people, some technicians from one of the networks who played the tapes for everyone to air. And many networks, including this one, C-SPAN, aired them live as they were being fed. And 3,000 pages of documents and reports related to the investigation also released today. Now, so not just the tape, but a lot of other supporting materials. We can see them actually opening them up, and we watch them on and off throughout the day, put these tapes in the machines for all to see. So we'll continue to take a look at that for a minute or two and take some more calls. Back out to California, Bakersfield on the Liberal line. Thanks for hanging on. Hello, Bakersfield.
Hi. I'm really disgusted with the whole affair. I think the Republicans and the Star, Mr. Starr has made a mockery of the whole system. The American prestige has really been ground into the earth, and it's ridiculous. We need to stop these crazy people. He is, asked for forgiveness, and I think if there is anybody who has got anything in their hearts, we need to get on with our lives, forgive the man. He's done what he's done, and for us to be pounding this nonsense day in, day out so that our kids can listen to this garbage and listen to this porn on TV and on the radios is ridiculous. I think we need to get on with our lives and, forgive the man and let's get on with it.
Moving on now to Columbus, Ohio on the conservative line. Hello.
Yes. Number one, he's lied to me, and he's cost the taxpayers, they're saying $40 million. How much of that $40 million was spent in the last 10 or 7 months? And when he could have just solved this right away. I'm very upset with the President of the United States. I sure don't want Al Gore as president, but something's got to be done. I don't know what, and I don't think anybody else that I've been listening to has said anything, but something's got to be done. A censure, I don't know what a censure is going to do, but I don't see it. Thank you.
All right. Virginia Beach on the moderate line. What are your thoughts tonight?
Well, after listening to the tape, I still don't know if we learned anything. We spent a lot of money to investigate the president and his ordeals with Monica Lewinsky, and we're really at the same place where we started. I think our appetites have been whetted by having seen the videotape, having all the news coverage. But I would have rather seen our time be devoted to more impending business of this country, educational system, crime, which I think the president is trying to address. I voted for him back in '92. I voted for him again in '96. And if there weren't term limits, I would vote for him again. I really don't think that, I think that it's a personal situation between he and his wife and his family. Granted, it was made public and he had to make some comments. I think he did so very appropriately in his videotape comments. And really, I just sit back and, I'm just a little disillusioned here because I think the country has got better things to do, can spend more time and more money and more efforts in other things. And really, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, caller. For anyone out there looking for more legislation this week, the House and Senate have been in a brief recess for Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish holiday. The House returns to business on Wednesday to debate a tax cut proposal later this week and so-called fast-track trade authority for the president. And tomorrow the Senate comes in to debate a proposed raise of the minimum wage. You can watch that on C-SPAN 2. Belleville, Illinois, on the Liberal line. Thank you for waiting. Go right ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, this is calling about Mr. Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that this is really going to backfire on the conservatives. I mean, after all, we've all been in this situation, same as Clinton. I just really think they should stop this witch hunt.
Appreciate your
That's all I
time.
have to say.
Appreciate your time. We're moving on now to Huntsville, Alabama, on the conservative line.
Hi, I just wanted to call and say this has been truly a witch hunt. They should stop this. If anything, I don't see what sex has to do with obstruction of justice or perjury. And also, if anybody should be trying to check into anything, they should go back to Bush when he covered up for his son in the scandal, the SNL scandal. But at this particular point, they should let the president go ahead and do his duty and stop the witch hunt and let this go ahead and be between him and his wife Hillary and let the country, the nation move on about his business and let him finish his term.
Back to the moderate line. Indio, California.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes. My comments are that I am just disgusted and incensed, livid at the Republican Party and Kenneth Starr for putting us, the public, through the circus that they have just put us through. So the man had an extramarital affair. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with lying under oath or perjury. This smacks of the dirtiest kind of politics, and this time the Republicans have really shot themselves in the foot. I want to know what the president is going to do about the HMOs, welfare reform, education, other things, not his extramarital affairs. That's none of my business. So the Republicans, it's going to backfire on you. Thank you.
All right, a couple more calls before we go to tape. We do want to remind you about the C-SPAN website. You can watch and listen to the president's grand jury testimony on our website, or you can read it. find us on the internet at www.cspan.org. To watch that video, you can click on to Watch and Listen Now, or you can read portions of the transcript and the entire referral from the Independent Council, some 3,000 plus pages. www.cspan.org is our website. And a reminder about tomorrow's Washington Journal. We're going to talk with Jim Norman tomorrow morning. He is polling editor for USA Today, so you can ask him your questions about how polling is done here in America. The program starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, Mr. Norman's going to be on the back end of that program because we're going to start the program with about 2 hours, a little bit more than 2 hours of open phones. Again, more of your calls, and then Jim Norman about 9:15 or so. The Journal itself, again, starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Moving on to a couple more of your calls. Decatur, Illinois, on the Liberal line.
I've been watching a lot of this, and the thing that everybody seems to forget is the fact that if he had just told the truth when this all started to come out, none of this would have been investigated. He was being tried in a sex crime case, whether you believe Paula Jones or you don't believe Paula Jones. But to blame Republicans or to blame conservative Democrats or anyone else is out of line because, quite frankly, he's the one that did it. If this was somebody being tried in a sex case, are we going to say that if you did this to a child, oral sex doesn't count as sex? And I think that's what we need to look at, is the fact that we're setting some precedents in the judicial system as to what will count and what will not. And it's very appalling to me that our president is one that's being committing of these things. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
And we have a call from Magnolia, Arkansas, on the conservative line. You're on the air.
Yeah, I think we need to keep one thing in mind. Even though this is the president, he is an employee of the people. He works for the people, and whether the perjury or the obstruction is proven to be true, his actions took place at his place of work in the White House. And I don't know of any other American, if they got caught in these actions at their workplace, would still have a job.
All right, thank you for calling in, Magnolia, Arkansas. And we want to thank all of our callers for the past 20 minutes. More of your calls in about 10 minutes or so. But first, the news from Germany. We have about 10 minutes of a newscast tonight from Deutsche Welle. That's Germany's international public broadcasting station. Here's a look at how that network covered the president's testimony today.
Here is Deutsche Welle TV's News Journal.
Hello and welcome to DW TV's News Journal. I'm Samira Ahmed. The headlines. Clinton's ordeal. The president gets a standing ovation at the UN as America watches his videotaped grand jury testimony. Sickening. German politicians unite to condemn the continuing action against President Clinton. And in a landmark compromise, IG Metall union workers in eastern Germany secure equal pay with those in the west. Germany's weather. Overnight temperatures between 4 and 10. Tuesday will be dry, highs from 15 to 22 degrees Celsius. Millions of Americans have watched the unedited tapes of President Clinton's video testimony to the grand jury on his affair with Monica Lewinsky. For almost 4 hours, almost without interruption, most national and many international channels broadcast the live feed from the U.S. Capitol in Washington. In his testimony recorded on August the 17th, Mr. Clinton admitted inappropriate intimate contact with the young White House worker. The testimony was dominated by tedious legal argument, notably over the definition of the term sexual relations. But the tapes did show Mr. Clinton visibly annoyed at some of the questioning. The House of Representatives Judiciary Committee simultaneously released 2,800 pages of written evidence from the Lewinsky case. The White House spokesman, Mike Vakari, said the videotapes showed that the president's conduct did not rise to the level of an impeachable offense.
Clinton's legal and grammatical skills came to bear in the testimony when asked whether his lawyer's statements about his relationship with Ms. Lewinsky were true.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yes.
If is means is and never has been, that is not that's one thing. If it means there is none. That was a completely true statement.
Prosecutors also questioned the president's truthfulness in his January testimony.
Their illegal leaks, their constant, unrelenting illegal leaks, in a lawsuit that I knew, and that by the time this deposition and this discovery started, they knew was a bogus suit on the law and a bogus suit on the facts. In the face of that, I knew that in the face of their illegal activity, I still had to behave lawfully. But I wanted to be legal without being particularly helpful.
A presidential spokesman says it's now time for the country to judge whether what he's done is impeachable. The White House says it clearly is not.
He's just trying to defend himself and save his presidency.
That it's a very humiliating experience for the president. I think that it's rather degrading right now. And right now, I don't feel that it's necessary that they, that they have shown the tape. However, before, I thought that they should have, but now watching him, I sympathize with him.
Congress will now have to decide whether the weight of testimony and 2,800 pages of evidence also released Monday are enough to force Clinton to leave the White House.
Well, I'm joined now on the line from Washington by Bill Wax, who's been monitoring the day's events. Bill, we had some public opinion there in that report. The New York markets plunged when the tapes were released, but recovered later on. From where you are, does it look as though Clinton's weathering the storm on this one?
I think that the tape wasn't as bad as a lot of people feared. Now, for those people that don't like Bill Clinton, the tape confirmed all the reasons why they don't like him. But for the people that want to find a reason to keep this man as president, I don't think it was as bad as they feared. And so I think there's a big, huge group of those people in America going, phew, thank God.
Well, what everyone has been saying, Bill, is that it's public opinion that may win or lose this one. Do you agree?
Well, it's funny, but politics more and more is becoming, what do the latest polls say? So I guess we wait and see 2 days and what the latest polls say. My guess is that the polls are going to be pretty similar to what they were going into this, that overwhelming majority of Americans aren't happy with his behavior, but he probably will still have a majority of Americans who feel he shouldn't be impeached. That doesn't mean that the Republicans won't go ahead with the articles of impeachment anyway.
What have politicians been saying, in fact?
Well, it's sort of falling on both sides of the fence. The Democrats are, I think, relieved that he came across a little better than they thought. The Republicans are saying, see, he refuses to tell the truth. This man can't tell the truth. We need to investigate this further.
We saw pictures of President Clinton early in the day getting a standing ovation from world leaders at the United Nations, while Americans, of course, were watching his video testimony. People like Chancellor Kohl, international leaders, have led an assault on what they see here in Europe, anyway, as a witch hunt. Does that kind of international support make any difference to Clinton now?
No, I don't think it does make any difference to Clinton. And as a matter of fact, I think Americans, being the iconoclastic people that we are, there are a number of Americans that go, hey, look, this is our problem. You should stay out of it. Now, of course, Americans have never worried about when it was other countries' problems when they wanted to get involved, but we have a very short memory.
Bill Wax in Washington, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, a number of European leaders have condemned the latest development in the Lewinsky case against President Clinton. Politicians across the political divide here in Germany were united in their distaste for the release of the grand jury testimony. Chancellor Kohl didn't mince words, saying the whole spectacle made him sick.
Rival German politicians united on Monday to condemn what they saw as the public humiliation of Bill Clinton. Chancellor Helmut Kohl criticized the release of the videotapes containing intimate details.
I think it's deeply distressing. I've said, literally, it makes me want to throw up. And I'll say it again. That's blunt language, I know, but it's also being used by other parties now. They say I'm an old elephant, but in this matter, they're taking my lead.
With just 6 days to go before general elections in Germany, the political parties aren't able to agree on many things. But senior Social Democrats joined Kohl in condemning the broadcast of the tapes.
It's nauseating and disgusting. I refuse to watch something like that or even to read it. And I hope it triggers a discussion in America on the right to privacy of people who hold public office.
The German public's interest in the Clinton tapes has also been criticized as voyeurism. The Social Democrats felt it was a double-edged sword.
I noticed that there's a lot of curiosity here. On the one hand, we make fun of it all, but we also want to peep through the keyhole. It makes me sick.
The Free Democrats also joined in the chorus of condemnation.
I think it's disgusting, because I think it destroys a part of political culture. I think it's pandering to voyeurism. It's a way of pushing up ratings, and political culture is thrown out of the window.
Westerwelle said this was not just an American problem. He also criticized the German media for publishing the intimate details of the Clinton affair.
Well, while the video testimony was running on American TV, Bill Clinton himself was receiving a standing ovation from world leaders at the opening of the new session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. President Mandela of South Africa and Britain's Prime Minister Blair were among the heads of state participating in the debate on tackling terrorism. In his keynote speech to the Assembly, 7 weeks after the bomb attacks on 2 U.S. embassies in Africa, President Clinton called for a global anti-terrorism convention, and he emphasized there was no inherent clash between Islam and America.
It's not just the president's reputation that's worrying Americans. They've got other problems, like international terrorism. The General Assembly gave Clinton a standing ovation when he arrived at the UN on Monday. Clinton explained why Americans are especially at risk from terrorist attacks.
Because we are blessed to be a wealthy nation with a powerful military and a worldwide presence active in promoting peace and security, we are often a target.
America needs international cooperation to fight terrorism, and Clinton knows that a show of force is not enough.
Developing nations have an obligation to spread new wealth fairly, to create new opportunities, to build new open economies. Developed nations have an obligation to help developing nations stay on the path of prosperity and to spur global economic growth.
America needs United Nations support for its campaign against terrorism, and that's another of America's problems. It has no ambassador at the United Nations, and Congress refuses to pay America's outstanding dues of more than $1.6 billion.
Deutsche Welle comes to us from Germany. It's the international public broadcasting station there. We have a couple minutes for calls here, about 10 minutes of calls. We're also going to take a look at some newspaper headlines from around the country as they appear on the internet. Hannestown, Pennsylvania, you're on the Liberal line. Thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah, I'd just like to make the point that everybody says about kind of stars spending $40 million in 4 years. Well, if there was also 19 convictions, well, what about that? Nobody ever says anything about that.
Thanks, caller. Fresno, California, on the conservative line.
Yes, my name's Adam. I'd just like to say that so many of the people calling in here tonight are misunderstanding what all of this is about. It's not about whether or not Clinton should have privacy because he's an elected official. It's not about whether or not he had an extramarital affair. What it's about is the question of whether or not he committed perjury in a deposition. It's about whether or not he was tampering with withholding evidence, or whether or not he was trying to convince other people to lie in deposition. And those are all impeachable offenses. And so people need to understand that that this is not about Bill Clinton's private life. It's about what he did under oath. Thank you.
All right, thank you for calling in. We go to the moderate line to Three Rivers, Michigan. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I want to say that I think our president should be setting an example for our children, and by getting on the television and hedging around, he's letting the the children say that, or know that if you have the right story, if you kind of fudge on the truth, it's okay. And what are they going to think about when they get in this position in the future? If someone asks them a question, or if they give them the right fudge, it's not a lie, you know. What's the difference between saying I didn't cover up something, or like in Nixon's case, or a lie when it says I didn't have sex? A lie is a lie, regardless of which way you put it. So I think what we're doing here now is saying that it's okay to lie if it's about sex, but if it's about something else, no, we can't do that. So I think what we're doing here is teaching our children to that lying is okay, and I'm opposed to that.
I appreciate you weighing in. Thank you for calling. Panama City Beach, Florida. You're on the Liberal line. What'd you think of the tape?
Hi, I was calling to say that I think President Clinton has done a very good job as President of the United States. However, I think that if he has lied under oath and committed perjury, I think that that should qualify him to be impeached. I don't really care to hear all the details and everything they're giving out on TV. I think that that should have been the Kenneth Starr's job to make that decision kind of behind the TV scenes. But I do feel like that if he did commit perjury, I do feel like that should be an impeachable offense.
Back to the conservative line, Kansas City.
Hi, this is Ron. I'd just like to say that I think he's hoodwinked the American people. And as for people that think he's done such a great job, just look at our situation with foreign policy, declining military. He's pushed our morals as a country to substandard levels, and I believe he completely runs the country by polls and small interest groups. What has occurred since Susan Coleman's real suicide in 1977 till the death of another young woman, intern with the initial M, was beaten to death near Georgetown in '98, is literally frightening for anyone connected to Clinton. That's all I have to say. I think he should be impeached.
Caller, thanks, Kansas City. Let's take a quick look at the internet now. Some of the newspaper websites. This is the Los Angeles Times, LA Times, the case against Clinton, a photo there. President's tape testimony presented to wary nation. Several sub-headlines there. Supporting documents are available. Full version of the president's video testimony, excerpts from supporting documents. Clinton urged to face Congress, tell his side, one of the stories there. For Lewinsky, silence could be golden. Just one of the many subheads, one of the sidebars to that story in the LA Times. Moving on to the Denver Post, we can see there, Clinton video released, White House scandal. And moving on to the Dallas Morning News. You can see that the headline is Clinton tape plays on nation's TVs, motives, consequences of tapes released debated. Congress laid before a wary nation today the raw footage of President Clinton's grand jury testimony and more than 3,000 pages of evidence chronicling his relationship with Ms. Lewinsky. Moving on here to the Detroit Free Press, one of the other newspapers we're looking at here is a photo of the President and the First Lady as they left for New York today. Now, the President spoke at the United Nations this morning at the opening session of the 53rd General Assembly. He and Nelson Mandela and some other world leaders spoke. Mr. Clinton addressed the subject of terrorism there, and that's the photo in the Detroit Free Press. And the New York Times, Nation views tape of Clinton, furious and sad in testimony in an extraordinary and grueling display. President Clinton's grand jury testimony was broadcast to the nation Monday as a centerpiece in his possible impeachment, with Clinton alternately argumentative and contrite. And again, a picture there, the president at the UN in New York. That's the New York Times website. Time for a couple more calls, and then we're going to go back to one of the international newscasts from London. Nacombe, Michigan. Thanks for hanging on. You're on the moderate line.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I did vote for President Clinton both times, but I have voted for a lot of Republicans, and I will never, ever in my life vote for another Republican again. And I just wanted to tell people to quit watching Larry King, Chris Matthews, and Geraldo Rivera. They're just getting a lot of money for all these ratings, and if people would quit watching them, maybe this story would go away for a few days anyway. Thank you.
Mesquite, Texas, on the Liberal line.
Yes, I believe he should go through the impeachment process. I think that we all need to see if he has actually committed perjury and has impeachable offenses against him. If he had the qualities we all thought he had as president and that we voted for him for, he would resign and take care of his family. This country will survive for 2 years with Al Gore. It would survive with anybody there, just the same as the embarrassment of him.
Mesquite, Texas, thank you very much. Moving out to San Diego now on the conservative line. Did you watch the tape?
Yes, I did. Me and my family sat around today and watched the videotape. I'm 17, and what President Clinton has supposedly done has not set a very good example for anybody in the country, especially the children, saying that he can do what he did and by just using trickery of words, get away with it. I think this is, he was being very disreputable, and I do not appreciate what he did. He lied to me and he lied to the country.
What do you think should happen now?
I think he should pay the $40 million that Starr used for his investigation on him. If he didn't do anything, well, then they should prove that. But if he did, then I think he should pay the money back. And I think nobody that is called in tonight knows what the issue is except for a few people, and that's to find out if there was perjury or obstruction of justice or withholding of evidence, and it was not about the sex. And that's all I have to say.
All right, got a couple calls here from Florida. Pompano, Florida, on the moderate line.
Yeah, I wonder why people don't understand why the world is the way it is today. Nobody is accountable for any of their actions anymore. Criminals can do whatever they do because nobody's afraid of the law anymore. And the president has proven that strictly for the past 7 months and ever since he's been in presidency. This man is a disgrace to the United States. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I am an American citizen first. And this is an atrocity what this man has done. And all of our bureaucrats that are up there that call themselves Americans, which are Republicans and Democrats, they better look in the mirror and do something that is right for this country and stop worrying about what's going on overseas. Let's start taking care of our children and our homeless people and the people that have worked very hard for this country, and stop mixing words, and let's do the right thing for a change.
All right, caller, going to let you go. We got another call from Florida here. Port Charlotte on the Liberal line. Hi.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. I was just thinking about this circus out there, as they call this tape. I was like, what's going on here? Why don't they run the country like they should, you know? Instead of bickering about who did what, you know? It's like FDR and JFK might have had something on the side, too, but that didn't change how they ran the country, you know? Right?
All right, going to move on now. Get some more of your calls a little bit later, but first, we have about a half an hour from the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. They have a program called Newsnight, sort of a Nightline type program. We're going to hear from Eleanor Clift from Newsweek and author Ann Coulter, who were guests on this program, and here it is, about a half an hour.
Any Western world leader have been seen in such an ignominious way. In this country founded by Puritans, this is either an appalling witch hunt or an inquiry fully justified, because not only did the president lie, the allegation is he encouraged others to do so. The question of perjury will be the key that unlocks the door to the charge of high crimes and misdemeanors. Kenneth Starr and the Republican cohorts clearly believe that the tapes will hook the president. But as a poll today said that more than half of the American people didn't want to watch the tapes, perhaps the voters will have little appetite for any more shame. This truly is a drama of the TV age. Here are the presidential videotapes, and here is the unexpurgated transcript of Monica Lewinsky's testimony, which was also released today. It's fair to say the tapes do not bear out the heavy spin that we would see a president in a fury, swearing and storming out. But as Bridget Kendall reports, it's the explicit sexual references and the possibility it attempts at a cover-up which could be very damaging. Though it is after 10:30, we do warn you that some of you might find the extracts of the tapes and transcripts distasteful.
From the moment it was dispersed this morning, the once-secret videotape of President Clinton's grand jury testimony could not have been made more public. Immediately, it was broadcast live on all major television networks, dispersed on CD-ROMs and in book form for anyone with the time to wade through it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
New information that follows an already devastating revelation a week ago, just as President Clinton was seeking forgiveness from religious leaders in the White House. The report of Kenneth Starr's investigation into his relationship with Monica Lewinsky that not only went into embarrassing detail, but outlined 11 charges that could possibly lead to impeachment. By far the most serious charge was that he'd lied under oath. In other words, committed perjury. Both in January, when he was questioned by lawyers gathering evidence for Paula Jones' sexual harassment suit, and again on August the 17th, before Kenneth Starr's grand jury, revealed for all to see in today's videotape.
I do.
Crucial to the question of whether he lied or not is the definition of sexual relations he agreed to abide by in his January testimony, that sexual relations is when a person knowingly engages in or causes contact with the genitalia, anus, groin, breast, inner thigh or buttocks of any person with an intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person, and that contact means intentionally touching either directly or through clothing. Almost immediately, facing the grand jury, President Clinton laid out his main defense, that whatever he did with Monica Lewinsky didn't come within that definition.
When I was alone with Miss Lewinsky, on certain occasions in early 1996 and once in early 1997, I engaged in conduct that was wrong. These encounters did not consist of sexual intercourse. They did not constitute sexual relations as I understood that term to be defined at my January 17, 1998 deposition. But they did involve inappropriate, intimate contact. These inappropriate encounters ended at my insistence in early 1997. I also had occasional telephone conversations with Ms. Lewinsky that included inappropriate sexual banter. I regret that what began as a friendship came to include this conduct, and I take full responsibility for my actions.
From the start, though, that placed Bill Clinton in direct contradiction with Monica Lewinsky's sworn testimony, also released today on instructions from Congress, along with other documents in 2 fat volumes of evidence. A detailed chart she'd helped compile suggested their sexual relationship began in 1995, not 1996, and included a total of 10 sexual encounters. In Mr. Clinton's view, though, so long as those meetings included only oral sex, he hadn't perjured himself before Paula Jones' lawyers when he denied a sexual relationship.
And what they can infer that I meant was that I did things that were, when I was alone with her, that were inappropriate and wrong, but that they did not include any activity that was within the definition of sexual relations that I was given by Judge Wright in the deposition. I said that I did not do those things that were within that definition, and I testified truthfully to that. And that's all I can say about it. Now, you know, if there's any doubt on the part of the grand jurors about whether I believe some kind of activity falls within that definition or outside that definition, I'd be happy to try to answer that.
Well, I have a question regarding your definition then, and my question is oral sex performed on you within that definition as you understood it?
As I understood it, it was not, no.
But if President Clinton hoped that would put an end to any more embarrassing questions, he was mistaken. As the afternoon wore on, one by one, Mr. Starr's prosecutors tried to pin him down. The questions became more and more excruciating.
If a person touched another person, if you touched another person on the breast, would that be, in your view, and was it within your view, when you took the deposition, within the definition of sexual relations?
If the person being deposed, in this case me, directly touch the breast of another person with the purpose to arouse or gratify, under that definition, that would be included.
Only directly, sir, or would it be directly or through clothing?
Well, I think the common sense definition would be directly. That's how I would infer what it means.
If the person being deposed kissed the breast of another person, would that be in the definition of sexual relations as you understood it when you were under oath in the Jones case?
Yes, that would constitute contact. I think that would. If it were direct contact, I believe it would. Maybe I should read it again, just to make sure.
This might be the President of the United States, but no question about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky was too intimate to be dealt with.
If the person being deposed touched the genitalia of another person, would that be in with the intent to arouse the sexual desire, arouse or gratify, as defined in definition 1? Would that be, under your understanding, then and now, sexual relations?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it would?
Yes, it would. If you had a direct contact with any of these places in the body, if you had direct contact with intent to arouse or gratify, that would fall within the definition.
So you didn't do any of those three things with Monica Lewinsky? You
are free to infer that my testimony is that I did not have sexual relations as I understood this term to be defined.
Including touching her breast, kissing her breast, or touching her genitalia?
That's correct.
The next question was even more shocking. Even Mr. Starr's up till now unflappable prosecutors began to sound embarrassed.
Would you agree with me that the insertion of an object into the genitalia of another person with the desire to gratify sexually would fit within the definition used in the Jones case as sexual relations?
There's nothing here about that, is there? I don't know that I ever thought about that one way or the other.
An episode that clearly humiliated and angered the president, and who knows how the American people will react to it, or to the decision by Congress to make it public. For Mr. Starr and his prosecutors, though, the justification of probing so deep was that all this was contradicted by Monica Lewinsky. But time and again, as the documents released today show, she described sexual encounters that included all the intimate actions he'd just denied. For instance, describing one occasion, she claimed that he focused on me pretty exclusively, I guess, in a sexual manner on that day, and kissed me and kissed my breasts. In other words, it wasn't just oral sex they engaged in, and President Clinton, before the grand jury, was knowingly committing perjury.
The question is, if Monica Lewinsky says that while you were in the Oval Office area, you touched her breast, would she be lying?
That is not my recollection. My recollection is that I did not have sexual relations with Ms. Lewinsky, and I'm staying on my former statement about that.
If she
my statement is that I did not have sexual relations as defined by that.
If she says that you kissed her breast, would she be lying?
I'm going to revert to my former statement.
Okay. If Monica Lewinsky says that while you were in the Oval Office area, you touched her genitalia, would she be lying? That calls for a yes, no, or reverting to your former statement.
I will revert to my statement on that.
If Monica Lewinsky says that you used a cigar as a sexual aid with her in the Oval Office area, would she be lying? Yes, no, or won't answer?
I will revert to my former statement.
In the light of all this, moments when the president let down his guard and showed glimpses of his famous temper were perhaps hardly surprising. In particular, he vented his rage at Paula Jones' lawyer's interrogation of him during his January deposition, a tirade that showed it wasn't just his wife Hillary who believed there was a political conspiracy out to get him.
What they wanted to do, and what they did do, and what they had done by the time I showed up here, was to find any negative information they could on me, whether it was true or not, get it in a deposition, and then leak it, even though it was illegal to do so. It happened repeatedly. The judge gave them orders. One of the reasons she was sitting in that deposition was because she was trying to make sure that it didn't get out of hand. But that was their strategy, and they did a good job of it, and they got away with it. I've been subject to quite a lot of illegal leaking, and they had a very determined, deliberate strategy because their real goal was to hurt me. When they knew they couldn't win the lawsuit, they thought, well, maybe we can pummel, and maybe they thought I'd settle. Maybe they just thought they would get some political advantage out of it. But that's what was going on here. Now, I'm trying to be honest with you, and it hurts me, and I'm trying to tell you the truth about what happened between Miss Lewinsky and me. But that does not change the fact that the real reason they were zeroing in on anybody was to try to get any person in there, no matter how uninvolved with Paula Jones, no matter how uninvolved with sexual harassment, so they could hurt me politically. That's what was going on, because by this time, this thing had been going on a long time. They knew what our evidence was. They knew what the law was in the circuit in which we were bringing this case. And so they just thought they would take a wrecking ball to me and see if they could do some damage.
This, then, Mr. Clinton admitted, was why he had no intention of confessing to any more about his affair with Monica Lewinsky than he was absolutely forced to, either in January to Paula Jones' lawyers or now before the grand jury, even if it created the impression he was constantly dodging questions.
Well, you're not telling our grand jurors that because you think the case was a political case or a setup, Mr. President, that would give you the right to commit perjury?
No, sir. No, sir. In the face of the Jones lawyers, the people that were questioning me, in the face of their illegal leaks, their constant, unrelenting illegal leaks, in a lawsuit that I knew, and that by the time this deposition and this discovery started, they knew was a bogus suit on the law and a bogus suit on the facts. In the face of that, I knew that in the face of their illegal activity, I still had to behave lawfully. But I wanted to be legal without being particularly helpful. I thought that was what I was trying to do. And you're the first person who ever suggested to me that I should have been doing their lawyers' work for them, when they were perfectly free to ask follow-up questions. On one or two occasions, Mr. Bennett invited them to ask follow-up questions. It now appears to me they didn't because they were afraid I would give them a truthful answer, and that there had been some communication between you and Ms. Tripp and them, and they were trying to set me up and trick me. And now you seem to be complaining that they didn't do a good enough job. I did my best, sir, at this time. I did not know what I now know about this. A lot of other things were going on in my life. Did I want this to come out? No. Was I embarrassed about it? Yes. Did I ask her to lie about it? No. Did I believe there could be a truthful affidavit? Absolutely. Now, that's all I know to say about this. I will continue to answer your questions as best I can.
On Capitol Hill all morning, every nuance and detail of the testimony was being watched closely and immediately analyzed. Democrats were reticent, but predictably, Republicans focused on the fact that the video proved President Clinton had avoided answering questions.
The thing that really concerns me is the president starts with a statement that basically says that he is the king and that now he will deign to walk among his subjects and tell them only what he allows for them to hear.
I think they chose the wrong day to do it. They didn't have to do it today. The president is making a major foreign policy address. This is a very important Jewish holiday. It's unfortunate that on a partisan, very harsh partisan basis, our Republican colleagues in the House have chosen to be partisan in releasing this tape.
Meanwhile, in New York, Bill Clinton was studiously going about his business, even though the public response to this video testimony could well prove a turning point and either save or bring down his presidency.
Well, I'm joined now from New York, by Erica Young. Erica Young, when you were watching the testimony, what impact did it have on you?
Well, I thought that it would be bad for President Clinton, but when I saw the testimony itself, as opposed to the leaks about the testimony, I thought he was a very credible witness. He reminded us again and again that this all started with Whitewater and wound up with a $40 million investigation of his sex life. And he's came across as somebody who was really trying to answer questions, not trying to falsify. I think in a way it was good for the president.
Ann Coulter, is that how it came across to you, that he was trying to answer all the questions?
I thought he was really searching his memory.
Okay, let me just put that to Ann Coulter. He was searching his memory.
Well, no, I mean, it's interesting what Erica says, because I think one of the most striking things about the testimony is how we see where all the attacks on the women and Ken Starr have been coming from. And that is, he couldn't remember, for example, his own interaction with Kathleen Willey, but he certainly remembered all of the sort of White House attacks on her, the letters that she sent him, and that disproved everything she said. It showed she was a liar, and that Julie Steele, boy, he remembered that with, you know, just blinding accuracy. And he did that repeatedly. I mean, he did that with Monica.
How this all started. This started
he brought that up. That was what was
interesting. Of a land deal. And so far, the taxpayers of the United States have spent this fortune of money to discover that the president had a few fumbling, unconsummated interactions with an intern.
Okay,
I think it's a scandal, actually.
Okay, let me just put that straight to Leela Bate. There's a few fumblings with an intern, and basically, it hasn't come up with the goods and hasn't had the impact that the Republicans thought it would have.
Well, I don't think the Republicans are looking for a specific impact. I think they're trying
to make sure that he's impeached.
Well, they're trying to get to the truth of the matter, and Clinton's making it very difficult.
But the truth of what matter? Okay, that this man had a few fumbling encounters.
No, Erica, that he lied under oath, committed perjury, obstructed justice.
And you find this equivalent to Watergate? You find this...
I never said that it was equivalent to anything,
no,
but
it's
I
much
think
worse
that
than Watergate.
We're allowing the world to go into a major financial crisis while the leader of the free world has his flies stared at by millions of people around the world. This is criminal.
Okay, let me just put that to Eleanor Clift. Eleanor Clift, do you think now that, I mean, apparently the majority of the American people didn't even want the tapes released, but do you think now there's the sense that people are actually going to turn away from this?
Well, I think the advance reviews of the tape told us we were going to see President Clinton we'd never seen before, this dark side of him. In fact, I agree with Erica. I think that he was a credible witness. He did point out how the Paula Jones civil case became entwined with the Starr case and the beginnings of the criminal inquiry into Lewinsky. And I think he also...
But he did equivocate enormously.
Well, of course he equivocated. This is a married man who had an affair.
Well,
and that's what this comes down to. And it's also intensely partisan, as the people around this set indicate. I mean, Republican advocates, including Ms. Coulter, I think, works for the Rutherford Institute, which funded the Paula Jones Institute. Well, I believe it's extremely partisan.
Finish here a minute, please.
It's extremely partisan.
Can I just wait? Can I just let Eleanor Clift finish what you were saying? Yeah.
It's extremely partisan and if Republicans are trying to push this, and you cannot have credible impeachment proceedings if they're driven by the right wing of one party.
Ann Coulter, didn't it seem very much as if there was a very great badgering of questioning from Kenneth Starr and so forth, that it was, you know, the agenda was very, very clear. And although it was about a narrow definition of sex, and all the stuff about, did he fumble her breast through her top or did he not? I mean, do you think that's really what the American people want to hear about?
Well, it's not really a question of what the American people want to hear. It's a question of whether the president has committed perjury. And he's claiming that on his narrow definition, although he had an inappropriate relationship, he essentially admitted that she was performing oral sex on him, and somehow that didn't fit into this extremely broad definition. And in fact, when he's asked, under your definition, would it be sexual relations if you, the deponent, because he's saying it's not, if the sex is performed on the deponent, he thinks that doesn't fit within the definition. If you, the deponent, insert an object into the genitalia of another person, and he says, wait a second, and he says,
people really don't
can I finish it, one point?
Erica Young, I'm going to come back to you in 2 seconds. Just let Ann Coulter make up,
there's a long pause, and he says, oh no, I don't think that's covered by the definition here. Well, yeah, many would say it is, and that is what the question of perjury is. If he's going to say it's not perjury, those are what the questions are.
Erica Young, I just want to pick up Erica Young in this. Erica Young, and the question of perjury. If indeed the president did encourage Monica Lewinsky, Betty Curry, perhaps a security guard, to cover up or to lie. Do you still think he's the upstanding man that should be running this country, or do you think that is a high crime?
I did not think that he was the upstanding man, and I never said that. I said that what we are doing here is criminal to the world order. We have a vacuum of power in the former Soviet Union. We have financial panics on many of the stock markets of the world, and the United States is giving up whatever power it has as a superpower in this ridiculous obsession with the president's penis. This is criminal. And the fact that people are sitting here on television discussing whether or not he lied about a sexual peccadillo shows that you have no idea how you are not looking at the forest for the trees.
Leela Bate,
you're not looking at the world picture here.
Neither is he. He was looking at his penis, having Monica perform on him as he's discussing whether we're going into Bosnia. If anyone is obsessed with the president's
and let me just bring in Leela Bate. Let me just bring in Leela Bate there. What about the larger point there, that here we have a man who is still deciding whether or not to attack Afghanistan, who's deciding whether or not to go forward with this third way, and that actually what people in this country want when the country is still doing pretty well is to have that man lead the country for those bigger reasons.
Well, I think the problem we're seeing now is that Clinton is making every effort to distract from the Lewinsky case. And we're seeing that right...
But the Lewinsky case is nothing.
Erica Young, could you just let Leela Bate have a say, please?
Foolish.
If you would let me continue my statement the way I allowed you to continue yours, I'd greatly appreciate it. And my statement is that Clinton has already threatened to veto a tax cut that Congress, that the Ways and Means Committee in Congress, the Tax Writing Committee, has passed, that has marriage penalty relief in it for the American people. Now, your viewers may not be aware of what the marriage penalty is, but in our tax code, married families, 21 million married families are penalized an average of $1,400 per year just because they're married. Now, Clinton's threatening to veto this when this is a perfect opportunity for him to stand up to the institution of marriage.
And can I get a... Is there a double standard, Eleanor Clifton?
Instead, what he's doing, instead of passing this bill, he's already admitted that the marriage penalty is not defensible, but he is trying to placate his liberal base.
Well, she just revealed this is a fight between the left and the right, and it's driven by the right. The marriage penalty that she's talking about, the tax code was devised when women stayed home for the most part, or they made significantly less money than their husbands, and those families still benefit under the tax code. So if you're really worried about traditional families, you're going to be opposed to changing the marriage penalty.
Let's not detail that, but isn't it the fact that there is a kind of, you know, a high moral tone does not suit anybody at the moment in American politics?
Look, nobody says what the president did was appropriate. He said it was wrong, and everybody agrees with him. We're talking about what do we do next. At bottom, this is still a consensual relationship between two people. If he lied about it, most Americans with common sense understand that's why he lied about it, and they're ready to forgive and move on. Well, you don't know what goes on in the marriage of two people.
Well, she's been going on national television saying that she didn't know anything about it.
What you have now is very zealous right-wing trying to push this to further embarrass the president, cripple the president,
Eleanor.
Perhaps drive him from office. That's what this is about, and it's not
the same question I put to, hang on a minute, the same question I put to Erica Young, if indeed he did encourage Becky Curry, Monica Lewinsky, whatever, to lie or cover up. And that is the key issue.
Yeah, but that is the very weak part of his, the weak part of Ken Starr.
Just hold on a minute.
That's a very weak part of Ken Starr's case. Monica Lewinsky, let me finish, please. Monica Lewinsky says directly that she was not directly asked to lie, and that's what you have to prove if this were in a court of law. The only thing that Ken Starr has is the fact that the president was not fully truthful about his private relationship with someone. And I think most Americans are concerned about privacy when it comes to matters of sex. I mean, this has just gone too far.
No,
Erica, can I say, I want to, Erica Young.
A perjury conviction in the history of this country that involved the person suborning the other person's perjury stating, would you please lie for me? That isn't a requirement of a perjury conviction.
Hang on, we're just going to lose the New York satellite briefly in a couple of minutes. I want to put it to Erica Young. Here we are in Washington. We are talking to political pundits. What do you think people that are outside the Beltway make of all this?
I think the United States has a death wish to destroy whatever power we have left in the world because we're focusing on something that is of no importance and giving up the very real political power we have. We know that Saddam Hussein has the bomb. We know that there are other rogue countries that can disseminate weapons of mass destruction. And here we all are, absolutely focused on this ridiculous thing with the president, because Whitewater really came up empty. And I'm very sad to see this great country going down this road. It's a kind of death wish.
Thank you very much. Lilibet, you say you wish Clinton had thought about that, but it's not exactly, simply the predilection of this president. I mean, we're not talking about an exception here.
No, we're not necessarily talking about an exception, but I would take issue at bringing up past sexual peccadillos of other presidents who, indeed, all presidents are entitled to a private life, but once they go under oath in a civil case in a federal grand jury and lie, that is a problem. And we have this man who has sworn to uphold the Constitution. I see a deep inconsistency between those two people.
Do you not have a worry? Do you not have the same worry that Erica Young has? Yeah, but do you not have the same worry that Erica Young has? That in fact, America's standing in the world, the confidence that America has in herself and the confidence other people display towards America
That's right.
will be damaged by
Well,
this.
the president has been very reckless in his behavior. The president has been very reckless, and he should have thought of that. And that's why I believe that impeachment is the way to go rather than having him resign or rather than censoring him, because impeachment is a process that the Founding Fathers developed to distance ourselves, to distance this new country from a parliamentary procedure where resignations were normal. What we want is a strong, stable leader in the White House.
We have a strong, stable leader.
He's not stable at all.
There's no suggestion that the recklessness he displayed in this very private matter has affected his leadership. If anything, he's been too cautious as a president for my taste. I mean, he does not indicate that he's reckless in his job. And secondly, if we're talking about the federal perjury, it was in a case that was thrown out, and an aspect of the case was not material. So it's not a strong case. It's not a strong case of perjury.
Do you think that he will resign, or do you think he'll be impeached, or do you think in fact
he
neither
won't
will be the
resign
case?
until he's about to be removed? I mean, if he sees the writing on the wall, I think he'll be impeached, and then the question is whether 14 Democrats, presumably 14, will vote to remove him. I don't think there's going to be a big turnover in the Senate. Maybe Republicans would pick up 2 votes.
Do you not find that deeply depressing?
That what? Deeply depressing?
Do you not find it deeply depressing that, America is going to come to a situation where, it is kind of leaderless?
No, I think it's leaderless right now.
Yeah, it's already
worse than that. We're an embarrassment to the world. I don't think he can do anything. I mean, he's talking about sending troops into Bosnia while having Monica perform oral sex on him. It's preposterous. We've got to get rid of him, and frankly, we can thank Great Britain for this excellent impeachment provision we have in our Constitution.
Well, I'm afraid I'll just have to...
That was the Newsnight program from the British Broadcasting Corporation. We'll have some newscasts later from France and from Canada. And we have about 40 minutes left of live programming, more of your phone calls, and then we're going to replay the president's testimony at about 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Phone numbers on the bottom of the screen. Again, liberals can call 202-624-1111, conservatives 624-1115, and moderates 202-737-6734. Right back to your calls. Goose Creek, South Carolina, on the Liberal line.
Yes, sir. I think all of this is ridiculous. That's their, personal life. I don't think that they should have this on TV. Nobody's God. Nobody's perfect, okay? I bet you everybody in the White House has done something wrong. Why do they have to do this and discredit our president? I don't think they need to impeach him. I think they need to go on. It's nobody's business. It takes 2 adults to do something. It's not just the president's fault. It's, and not just hers. Seemed like she just kept coming back. I think it's a scandal. They had pictures. They had everything. This lady was ready to do something to the to the president as soon as she was turned down. And it shouldn't be viewed. Kids shouldn't be seeing it. That's how I feel. And he should not be impeached. Let him go on. This world's going to come to a disaster.
All right, appreciate your thoughts. Moving on now to Park City, Utah, on the conservative line. Hello.
Hello.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I've been kind of working all day, and I just got in, and I finally had a chance to hear this testimony of the president. By the way, I'm calling from Park City, Utah. My name's Jim. I'm amazed that I'm working so hard to have 30% of my money, over 30% of my money, go towards this type of investigation that's obviously wasting my money. I think that you should put up Kenneth Starr's address up there, and I'd like to send him a bill for $40 million. I don't know why I'm paying my taxes to pay for a circus like this.
So, caller, you said you have not seen the tape yet?
No, I have seen the tape.
Oh, you have seen the tape. Sorry.
Yeah, and you know, all the chuckleheads up there that are doing this to the president should all be penalized, and I'd like to, as a citizen of the United States, apologize to the president. I don't think he deserves it, and I think most of America feels the same way. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate your thoughts. Park City, Utah. One of the House members from the Utah delegation, Chris Cannon of Provo, held a town meeting with his constituents last night. We're going to replay that event later this morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on C-SPAN 2. Mr. Cannon is a member of the House Judiciary Committee, and again, he met with his constituents about the story regarding the president. 7:30 in the morning over on C-SPAN 2. Moving on now to College Corner, Ohio. You're on the Liberal line. What do you think about all this?
I think everybody should be accountable for their actions. They've held the military drill sergeants that had committed the sexual harassment. They had to pay for their actions. There's been other people in office from around Cincinnati, Ohio. Jerry Springer was caught with a prostitute in office, and he had to step down, and that all this stuff has happened, and Clinton was more like Mark Furman. He kept referring back to his statement and evading any answers. He never answered any question direct. It seemed like he always beat around the bush, and he should just be accountable for his actions, and I think he should be impeached.
All right. Jackson, Mississippi, on the moderate line.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, I would like to make a comment. What kind of message, moral and religious message, are we sending to our children if we allow President Clinton to get away with immoral actions and perjury, especially our teenage children? I mean, they are very aware of what is going on, and I think it's very, very sad that they have to endure this. Also, I don't think that this is the Republicans' fault. If President Clinton had not lied, this would never have gotten this far. And I don't believe that President Clinton could have done the things that he's done for our country without the Republicans that are in office now.
All right. Thank you very much for calling, Jackson, Mississippi. A quick look here at some other headlines as seen on the internet. This is the Washington Post, our hometown paper, one of our hometown papers here in Washington. Clinton testifies, opponents, quote, set me up. You can see a photo there of Times Square in New York, that big Panasonic screen that they have right in the middle of Times Square, and they do all sorts of programming there from time to time. Some New Yorkers there watching the president today. The Washington Times website, here it is, Clinton grand jury video released, an Alan Fram story there. Actually, he's with the Associated Press. The tape portrays Clinton as sometimes angry at prosecutors' questions and other times expressing bitterness at how the Paula Jones lawsuit precipitated the criminal investigation of the Lewinsky affair by Kenneth Starr. Quote, I deplored what they were doing, Clinton said of the Jones lawsuit, but he insisted that in his testimony in January in the Jones case, he was, quote, determined to walk through the minefield of this deposition without violating the law, and I believe I did. Again, quote, I deplored the innocent people they were tormenting and traumatizing. I deplored their illegal leaking, Clinton said. Associated Press, as seen in the Washington Times. And the Seattle Times here. Today's top stories, of course, the story regarding the president. Another photo there with several other sidebar stories there on the Seattle Times website there. Moving on now to more of your phone calls, going to Savannah, Georgia, on the conservative line. Good evening.
Hi, how you doing? First off, a lot of these people keep blaming the Republicans for the tape release. If they would check the records, they would find that there was 138 Democrats that voted for it also. My second statement is, what I'd like to know is what puts him above the law when the CEOs, people in the military, and police officers are losing their jobs for the same thing that he done. And the other thing is a lot of law is made by things that are tried in the court. And if Clinton can beat this by saying that oral sex is not sex, then what I'd like to know is what is that going to do for the prostitutes out on the street? If oral sex is not sex, then what are they doing and what are they being arrested for? And the other thing, they keep saying he's done a good job. How many of them have really looked at his record? Because he really hadn't done much of anything. Most everything has been done by the Congress. You know, and he could end it, and they keep blaming Ken Starr for all the money that was spent, when Clinton could have ended this without all this trial and all this publication and everything, just by admitting it.
All right, caller, going to let you go. I didn't mean to cut you off there. We do want to get some other calls in before we wrap things up this evening. Enterprise, Alabama, on the moderate line.
Yeah, I've been listening to this show when one thing that I believe one caller called in that sums this whole thing up is she was basically telling us the American people shouldn't listen to a certain talk show host because apparently she didn't like what they were having to say. And she was saying that maybe if we didn't watch them for a couple of weeks, this would all go away. And I think President Clinton right now is wishing the same thing. I think we should impeach him. He should be held accountable for whatever he does in office. He is definitely a mentor, or should be in this country, for the adults and our children.
Thanks. Muncie, Indiana, on the liberal line.
Yes, I was just wanting to make a comment. The president has came and he's apologized to all of us Americans about this. But in the process, Monica Lewinsky, if anyone deserves to apologize, it should be her apologizing, because I'm pretty sure that she knew that that was the president, that he was married, and now we're having to pay for all of this. We're going to lose the president, and this was a good man. And that was really all I had to say.
All right, back to the moderate line. Phoenix, what would you like to say this morning?
I'd like to say that I feel a lot of people have missed the issue here. And the issue is not his affair with Monica Lewinsky, but I feel the issue is whether or not he lied under oath. And, you know, if I were to lie under oath, what would happen to me? And I feel if Clinton is not punished for lying under oath, a message will be sent to the citizens of our country, and our judicial system won't be as good as it is right now. Thank you.
Thanks. Conservative line, Silver Spring, Maryland.
Hello, yes. First of all, I would like to say that I'm a Republican from New York, and my husband is a Democrat from Florida, and we both feel the same way on this issue. The president lied. That is the issue, not that he had sex, which I know that oral sex is still sex, no matter how you want to split hairs about it. I'm upset that the public would blame Mr. Starr for the amount of time and money it has cost this nation to investigate this, when the president could have confessed and stopped it at any time. And I'm outraged at the president for his behavior and at the public that accepts his behavior and has the oops, life goes on attitude. I feel that because he is the president, he has an obligation to be above reproach. He is the example to many, many people and should be held to higher standards.
All right, and we have a call from Alamo, California. You're calling on the liberal line.
Yes, this is Tia, and I'm 16, and I do go to a Catholic girls' high school. And I just feel that in my English class, we've been studying Arthur Miller's The Crucible. And I feel that this thing going on with President Bill Clinton is a modern-day witch hunt. And I would just like to say that. And I also think that the part about the questioning of if Monica Lewinsky gave the tie to President Clinton, personally, I don't think that has anything to do with this subject. Also, he did confess to this sexual act. And I think now we should get on with it, because this really has nothing to do with the presidency.
Caller, thank you. More of your phone calls in a couple of minutes. And if you don't get a chance to get in tonight, there's plenty of opportunity tomorrow morning in the Washington Journal. Going to start the program at 7 o'clock right with your phone calls. 2 hours and 15 minutes of open phones. on this story or another issue if you'd like to talk about it. And then the back end of that program, the last 45 minutes, we're going to meet Jim Norman. He is polling editor for USA Today. So the Washington Journal starts 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Once again, we're going to have one more phone segment this evening and then get back to the president's grand jury testimony at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. But for now, a little bit more of the international perspective on things. France 2 television now, about a 10-minute portion of their newscast with subtitles. And more of your phone calls now, and then we're going to replay the president's testimony in about 20 minutes at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Killeen, Texas, thanks for hanging on. You're on the moderate line.
Hi. I'd just like to say, first of all, that I think the president is an embarrassment and a disgrace to the country. Second of all the military people, the drill sergeants that got prosecuted, put out, some of them got put in jail. The Air Force major, she got put out. Sergeant Major McKinney got put out. I think the president should apologize to all those people. Excuse me. It's just an embarrassment. It doesn't matter about the sex. The apathy of the country amazes me. All these people are like, well, it doesn't matter. Everybody's doing it. It doesn't make it right. It's still wrong.
Thank you. Thanks, caller. Moving on to Louisville, Kentucky on the conservative line.
Yes. I'd like to answer a few questions, please, if you will. Answer those questions. If the president preaches family values, why do we have to live by the family values that he preaches?
Thanks for raising that question, caller. Jersey City, New Jersey, on the Democrat line.
Hello, thank you very much. I just think that if there are people out there that support Clinton as much as they say they do that are calling in, I think you're going to have to take some sort of action. You're going to have to educate your neighbors, for one thing, because there are a lot of people that I talk to that aren't even watching this. They're not even following this. They compare this to the O.J. trial, for crying out loud. Yes, there are some there are some big issues here. We're going to lose our reputation around the world if we impeach our president.
All right, caller, appreciate your time. Moving on now to Minneapolis on the moderate line. What would you like to tell us?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that this problem has come to the proportion that it's come to. I guess I'm not happy that my president lied to a grand jury. I'm happy that he finally, in front of the religious leaders at the prayer breakfast a few weeks ago, came clean and finally told people really what was in his heart and what he hoped to do. But I'm very sad that the grand jury testimony had to be released today. I think that it will probably become a kind of a divisive mark or a tool of divisiveness in our history, and I just wish that wasn't so. Am I still on?
Yes, you are. Why don't you?
I heard them click.
Yeah, I heard him too. Why don't you wrap up real quick?
Okay. Well, I'll just wrap up by saying that I talked to a friend of mine who's an older physician in Norway, and I asked him last night what's it like in Norway? How do people think about us? And what I found was probably not unusual. He said that he and others in Europe are very, very curious about why we would be putting so much time and effort into something that became public because it was private. The president lied in a grand jury, but certainly he lied, I would assume, out of kind of a sense of shame. And you know why? But anyway, there's a lot of questions in Europe, I know from speaking to him, and I just wish we'd all get our acts together and kind of move on with tomorrow.
Caller, we're going to let you go. Going to get some other folks in here. Sunbury, Pennsylvania, on the conservative line.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that what he does on his personal business is his personal business, and whether he lied or not, it doesn't make any deal, because if it was a normal person and not the president, he wouldn't be going through all this, and I just don't think it's right. He lied, he said truth, leave it alone.
All right. Thank you, caller. Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Hi. I just want to touch on an area that I don't think anybody's really thought about. I know they're saying that, he answered the questions with "I don't know." I don't think the basic American citizen has been through a deposition. I personally have been. And, when they start throwing the questions at you the way that they do, a lot of times the answer is "I don't know." And you are instructed by the attorneys that if you don't know, that's the answer that you're to give. Based on what he's dealing with, along with everything else in the nation that he has to deal with. I think he did a pretty good job.
All right, caller. Appreciate your time as well, Colorado Springs. Another look at some of the newspapers around the world. South China Morning Post here out of Hong Kong. Again, this is the internet here. Clinton sex scandal, pensive, poker-faced performance, several different types of photos at various phases of his testimony from August 17th. Moving on to Australia, a newspaper known as The Age. We'll take a look at that cartoon right there, the president, for a moment. Their headline there is the Clinton sex scandal. Many different sidebars. World sees Clinton's video fury. Clinton braced for another onslaught. Star probe a long way from over. Portrayal of the president for both sides. The devils in the sexual detail. That's a newspaper known as The Age out of Australia. And the UK, the United Kingdom, the Daily Mirror. One-word headline there, humiliated, with a picture of the president from his testimony that was released and played today. And we're going to replay it in about 13 minutes or so here on C-SPAN. More of your calls now. Long Island on the conservative line.
Hi. I believe that Mr. Clinton is wrong, and he should most definitely be punished accordingly. I think that the offenses of perjury and obstruction of justice are serious offenses that our government should look at seriously, because I think that the way that they act in accordance to these issues will portray our values that we uphold in our country. However, the means by which our government has chosen to reach this goal is devastating and embarrassing to all of the people in this country. And with respect to our children, I think that we should be as concerned about the political zeitgeist that we expose to our children in this country as we are about the condition of the environment that we want to leave them. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Ashton, Maryland on the moderate line.
Yes, I would liken the situation with Bill Clinton to this. Remember that all of us growing up and watching our friends in high school be told that the quarterback of the football team, if caught smoking, would be unable to play in the championship game. And we stood for values there, and we held to those values and said that the quarterback couldn't play, and we lost the championship. In this case, though, too much is at stake for our quarterback to be out of the game. These tapes could work to our advantage, I believe, and in the final analysis, my recommendation is that Congress immediately convene, vote for censure, and let us get on with the management of the business of our economy. As someone who's lived abroad for years, I have to say that our image in the world is far more important than for any kind of demonstration of values that we think we're demonstrating to the children of the nation. It's time to have that vote for censure, and let them get on with governing the business.
All right, sorry to cut you off there, caller. We did want to squeeze in one or two last calls. San Jose on the Liberal line. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Keith. I'm calling actually because, all these people are talking about how, the president has committed perjury and, he should be impeached. But when you think back to when Reagan was in office and he was selling contraband to foreign countries, it's amazing to me that because he had a scapegoat, he had, Oliver North blame it all on, that instead of him being impeached, they just sent somebody else to prison. And then after it was all blown over, Reagan then went ahead and passed it. He gave him a pardon and released him from prison a year later. President Clinton made a mistake. I'm a Democrat, and I believe he probably did do something with Monica, and I think that he deserves to be punished, but impeaching him is a little too serious. You know, he's done a lot of good things for the country. I'm a small businessman, and I feel that for the most part, the worst thing that should come to him is he should be sanctioned and just let him serve his term. You know, he's a good president, and I think he deserves to stay there.
All right, caller. Going to get a call here from Fairbanks, Alaska, on the conservative line. Thanks for calling.
Yes, I'm calling with my reaction to the grand jury testimony today. I feel that the president did a big disjustice to our nation. From what I've seen, he looks like he's very evasive. And my children have watched this today, and their ages are from 8 to 16. And my children are disgusted in our president. And I'd like to say to everybody that's listening, we have millions of Americans in the United States, and there's more great people out there that can do the president's job well. Bill Clinton is not the only one, and I think he should resign. Thank you.
Appreciate your time as well. Thanks to everybody for calling in this evening and throughout the day, ever since the tapes were first aired here on C-SPAN. We'll give you another chance tomorrow morning on the Washington Journal at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll spend the rest of this hour here before the replay of the president with one more international newscast, the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation newscast out of Toronto, as they focus on this story.
The National with Terrence McKenna and Peter Mansbridge.
People the world over gathered in front of televisions today for an unprecedented view of an American president. Video of Bill Clinton giving testimony last month before a U.S. grand jury. A public man grilled on the very private details of his sex life. David Holton begins our coverage with Clinton under fire and fighting back.
Americans had never seen it before, and they may never see it again.
I do.
Their president swearing to tell the truth in a sex and perjury case. At the outset of the video testimony, Clinton read a prepared statement.
I engaged in conduct that was wrong. These encounters did not consist of sexual intercourse. They did not constitute sexual relations as I understood that term to be defined.
Clinton confessed that Monica Lewinsky did perform oral sex on him, but he said he felt that wasn't included in a broad definition of sexual relations used when he testified in the Paula Jones sexual harassment case. Then the prosecutors sprung an obviously well-prepared trap.
If the person being deposed kissed the breast of another person, would that be in the definition of sexual relations as you understood it when you were under oath in the Jones case?
Yes, that would constitute contact. I think that would if it were direct.
When the prosecutors confronted Clinton with Lewinsky's testimony, Clinton refused direct answers.
If Monica Lewinsky says that you used a cigar as a sexual aid with her in the Oval Office area, would you be lying? Yes, no, or won't answer?
I will revert to my former statement.
Under the barrage of humiliating questions, Clinton struggled at times to control his anger and exasperation. He said he didn't volunteer information in the Paula Jones case because the lawsuit was politically motivated.
I deplored what they were doing. I deplored the innocent people they were tormenting and traumatizing. I deplored their illegal leaking. I deplored the fact that they knew, once they knew our evidence, that this was a bogus lawsuit, and that because of the funding they had from my political enemies, they were putting ahead. I deplored it, but I was determined to walk through the minefield of this deposition without violating the law, and I believe I did.
The prosecutors also confronted Clinton about the DNA evidence on Lewinsky's dress, seen for the first time in a photograph that was released today. Clinton had little to say about it.
I have nothing to add to my statement, sir.
As the video testimony dragged on, a surreal juxtaposition.
Thank you very much.
Clinton was getting a standing ovation from world leaders at the United Nations as he made a speech calling for new measures against terrorism. Most networks were showing the video of a president constantly saying he couldn't remember key details of the Lewinsky story.
I don't remember that. I don't have any memory of this as I sit here today. I didn't remember the cherry chocolate.
Clinton also denied that he asked his secretary Betty Curry to retrieve and conceal gifts he gave Lewinsky. Nor, he said, was he obstructing justice when he talked with his close confidant Vernon Jordan about finding a job for her.
I was not trying to buy her silence or get Vernon Jordan to buy her silence. I thought she was a good person. She had not been involved with me for a long time in any improper way, several months. And I wanted to help her get on with her life.
Along with the video, 2,800 pages of supporting evidence were released and new pictures of Clinton and Lewinsky together. There was some good news for the president. In a transcript of Lewinsky's testimony, she corroborates Clinton's statement on one vital issue. I would just like to say that no one ever asked me to lie, and I was never promised a job for my silence. Clinton acknowledged, though, that his testimony differed with Lewinsky's on other issues.
But maybe Miss Lewinsky believes she's telling the truth, and I'm glad she got her mother and herself out of trouble. I'm glad you gave her that sweeping immunity. I'm glad for the whole thing. It breaks my heart that she was ever involved in this.
Just minutes after the videotape was off the air, White House officials were out trying to shape public opinion. They said there's nothing in it that proves Clinton guilty of impeachable offenses, and that in any case, the report itself will only serve to rally public support for the president. Peter?
David, stand by for a moment. We'll be back to you in just a sec. When Congress voted to release the Clinton tape, it said it wanted to let Americans judge their president for themselves. Well, Anna Maria Tremonti now on their verdict.
They couldn't miss it. From the giant screen in New York's Times Square to the billiard halls of small-town California and the treadmills of Buffalo. For Americans, the image of U.S. President Bill Clinton discussing an adulterous affair was inescapable. Some did their best to ignore it.
I didn't agree that it should be shown on TV.
I don't think it's news. I think it's entertainment. I think it's a witch hunt.
Students at the University of Buffalo didn't miss a frame, gathering over breakfast to watch.
This is degrading, I think, and it does bring down his office, the office of the president, a notch.
Arrogant, bordering on sorry. He's trying to, convey that he's sorry for what he did, and that but it's apathetic. He really seems almost callous about the whole thing.
In Chicago, some were incredulous.
How does a Rhodes Scholar not understand that oral sex is sex?
I'm sorry.
In tiny Fillmore, California, the few who gathered in the billiard hall at dawn were unimpressed with Clinton's performance.
It comes off like he's an attorney, and he's going to hedge on every question that's asked him.
In Washington, they watched in earnest, whole rows of journalists poised to analyze.
So I'm not at all sure that this affidavit is not true.
Rooms of congressional aides clustered around television sets. Some worried about the impact the tapes would have on Clinton's future and theirs.
It is a political statement. It is election time. It is an effort to get Mr. Clinton to step down.
Others feared a backlash. Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich sounded as if he was offering a justification.
I wish very much the president told the truth. We wouldn't be going through any of this. I think it's important to keep that in mind.
For more than a week, Republican politicians have insisted they needed to show this video, that the public needed to know. But the American people have reacted with a level of cynicism and weariness that few had predicted. And now the politicians and the strategists must turn to the pollsters to see if the showing of this tape has hurt the president or his opponents. Anna Maria Tremonti, CBC News, Washington.
Well, back to the White House lawn and David Holton. On that point that Anna Maria Tremonti just raised, David, it's been another incredible day there, but is there any sense tonight in the U.S. Capitol who's ahead and who's behind on this?
Well, Peter, what many of those so-called inside the Beltway pundits are saying tonight is they're actually a bit surprised that the video wasn't more damaging. They're noting that it contained no revelations, that the president was fairly cool under fire, and may actually want a bit of sympathy for facing down all those extraordinarily humiliating questions.
Now, people still going over the thousands of other documents released there today. Any landmines appearing there?
Well, you have to be a speed reader to get through the 2,800 pages. I haven't read all of it, but there are some sections in Lewinsky's transcript which could be perhaps more damaging for Clinton than the video presentation itself. At one point, she says that he told her that he had virtually uncontrollable sexual urges and kept a log of all the days he'd avoided temptation. That's her word, mind you, but doesn't help Clinton's image.
David Holton on the White House lawn tonight.
And if you'd like some more information on the president's testimony and the investigation of the independent counsel, you can go to the C-SPAN website, www.cspan.org. You can find the president's complete testimony in real audio and real video. You can read the text of the testimony. You can read Ken Starr's referral to the U.S. House and various other supporting materials. You can also find out more about the House Judiciary Committee and procedures for impeachment in Congress. That's at www.cspan.org. One more reminder about tomorrow's Washington Journal program. The program starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. We will have a full 2¼ hours of your phone calls, straight open phones for 2¼ hours tomorrow, to be followed by Jim Norman, who is polling editor for USA Today. The show starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Pacific, here on C-SPAN. Now, another replay of the entire version of the president's testimony, 4 hours of the deposition given at the White House on August 17th before Ken Starr and his deputy prosecutors. The president discussing his relationship with Monica Lewinsky.